This document serves as physical evidence of the Philippines' effort to extend a helping hand during one of the world's darkest days. It contains 540 names of the estimated 1,300 Jewish refugees who lived in the Philippines during the Second World War. These names were those of refugees who were escaping the era of terrors cultivated by the Nazis, led by then-Führer Adolf Hitler. But for an estimated 6 million Jews whose names are not included on this list, they faced their unfortunate fate of torture and death during the Holocaust, from the implemented laws that ostracized them, from the attempts to drive them away, to the dark night of the broken glass, to residential segregation, and eventually, the mass killings in concentration and death camps.
And I have no words for the fact that there is something in the human being that, given certain circumstances, just act inhumanely. I think I wouldn't even know where to begin to express my very thanks for the fact that I lived.
This is the story of the last few living survivors who found safety and refuge in Manila from the world's neglect for humanity.
You have to know that I learned to weave this.
Maganda ninyo.
As I say, it's quite a story, and not enough of it has been told. It's called Having a Wonderful Time in the Philippines.
This is my story.
This is my story.
This is my story, and this is our story.
I am Margaret Pins Kestenbaum.
I am Lottie Castle Hirschfeld. I was born in 1931 in Breslau, Germany, which is now Wrocław, Poland.
Germany was a home to the Cassel family into which Lottie and Margot were born, and there they created their first memories as children. They were nothing but happy, normal, and perfect.
I think in general I was a very happy child.
We're cousins. We were more like sisters.
Lottie and I were born 10 days apart.
We had games, and we did our homework together. Perfectly normal childhood.
Both born into the Cassel family, young Margot and Lottie have always shared a very special relationship that kept them inseparable ever since.
We used to go on Saturdays and Sundays to a big public park, a beautiful park. For me as a child, a very lovely time, especially in the winter. It had a lake, and we had been taught how to skate, and it was lots of fun. And also sitting on a sled and being pulled through where there were trees.
We were mothers to our dolls, and we were good mothers. We'd take our little baby carriage, our little doll carriages.
It was just a place also where many Jews met on Sundays and exchanged gossip and so forth. Here she is. They're speechless all of a sudden.
Margot and Lottie received what children their age need the most, affection and care. And at a very young age, they found in each other a special friendship that not many people would find until they're grown-ups. Coming as well from a family practicing the Jewish faith, Margot and Lottie were brought up in a wonderful environment where people are treated with dignity and respect. But then suddenly, the world demonstrated otherwise. Suddenly, their joyous children was nearing what then seemed an end.
And then one day, my mom took me to the park to sit on the bench. We again came to a sign that said, "In this park, no Jews, no dogs allowed." I think at that point I was 6 years old or so.
And there was a sort of a display case, which was a Nazi case, and it portrayed Jews with big noses and Jews as thieves, and we could not understand that either. Well, it was very difficult. There were neighbors who would really not say hello to us, and there were Jewish neighbors who would suddenly disappear.
The discussions that I, as a child, overheard always had to do with where are you going? What are we going to do? Should we stay? Should we go?
Gradually, Germany was becoming a place worse and worse for Jews. It did not take very long until Jewish families found themselves struggling to make ends meet, including the families of Margot and Lottie, which were in fact well off to begin with.
And then my dad was released from his company that he had worked for at least 3 decades because of his Jewishness.
There were a few savings. And again, the question was, you were not allowed to take money out. I don't think I felt the sadness, but there was an expression that when my father and mother listened to the radio, they would say, "We see black days ahead. We see dark days ahead." And I didn't quite understand what that meant.
One day, Lottie witnessed and felt nothing but fear when Nazi officers barged into their home, took all of her father's Jewish books, and burned them. Despite their innocence, they were aware they needed to leave, but they also knew it was not going to be easy.
It was time to leave. The problem was, where do we go?
And from then on, my father would come home daily, bringing information about the fact that no country was ready to give us Jews a visa.
Most of the countries would not let us in because we needed relatives, we needed an affidavit, we needed a visa. It was very difficult. And my dad said, we are going as far away from Hitler as possible.
You know, I'm making it very simple, but in the mind of a child, you know, it was very clear that we were running away. We were running away because Hitler didn't want Jews in Germany.
That was a dream in Hitler's mind as he stood at Nuremberg.
Adolf Hitler was an anti-Semite. So he would say Jews are dangerous. Jews are an inferior race. The term he uses Untermensch. Subhuman, less than human. The Jews are parasites, they are germs. Aryans build culture. Jews destroy culture.
With pagan pageantry, the district leaders from all over Germany swore personal allegiance to him, hypnotized with the belief that they were members of a master race.
Hitler came up with this idea that the Aryan race is the pure race and the Jews are polluting that race. I think the one thing about the Jews is that it's not limited to a particular race or not limited to a particular nationality. Whether they're German or French or Belgian, as long as they're Jews. So it's a different kind of unity, religious unity. So Hitler brought into effect not only an anti-Jewish policy, but also a racial policy against those who are not pure Germans.
His idea was, let's intimidate, let's scare them, let's drive them out. So it became a crazy contest. It was that crazy society. Hitler would tell his men, go to the department stores and put signs on the windows, Verrater, traitor, or in some windows, Verboten, forbidden.
When Hitler and the Nazi Party rose to power, anti-Semitism and racism were promoted in the form of a constitution known as the Nuremberg Laws.
The Nazi Party published the first 2 of what became known as the Nuremberg Laws. And they were an increasing number of policies and laws and acts that progressively disenfranchised the Jews.
In Germany, up until the 30s, they were very prosperous. They were doctors, scientists, university professors, writers, philosophers, aside from being businessmen. Many others who were in the field of medicine, law.
Then later on, all Jews can no longer practice law. All Jews cannot practice medicine unless they are operating on a fellow Jew. All Jews cannot teach, cannot work as engineers.
To him, they are the ones controlling the German economy. They are the ones who are controlling the German professional industries. They are the ones controlling medicine. And to him, that the idea that the Jews were controlling Germany was, they were removing the Aryan opportunities.
And that also was part of the systematic impoverishment because, of course, if you're in a family and at this time, if you're depending on the single income of the father, then all of a sudden the entire family is left without a source of income. And so the life of the Jews got increasingly narrowed and increasingly straightened in their socioeconomic circumstances.
So the laws began to tighten, which is why as early as 1934, some Jews figured, we gotta get out of here.
Following these events, many Jews began thinking of ways to work around their situation or break loose from it. Among them were the families of Margot and Lottie.
So as a child, I think the only vibes, if you can call them, that I got were through my parents, that more and more the discussion was, we cannot stay in a country where you are restricted to where you sit and where you visit for your vacation.
We knew that we were going to be emigrating, that we were going to be leaving.
Provided the situation in Germany, some thought it would pass, that it would not last very long, that it could not grow any worse than it already was. But some thought otherwise, including the families of Margot and Lottie. The problem, however, was that there were very few places in which doors were open for Jews like them.
We had a neighbor in one of our apartment buildings there who said, why don't you go to the Philippines, but I believe you will be able to get in. And my dad went to the embassy, and within 4 months, we got our visas. I was going with my parents, with my brother, and we were very grateful to the fact that there was one country, and really it was basically the only country that permitted us to come in.
While humanity was neglected in Germany, there was a soul willing to protect it, a place that upholds it from halfway across the globe. The Philippines, then a U.S. Commonwealth, opened its doors under the leadership of President Manuel L. Quezon.
Sa itong sorpresa, mga Ginoo, magandang umaga sa inyo.
It is certain that the key players in this early formulation of welcoming larger numbers, or at least significant numbers, of Jewish refugees into the Philippines was the work of Manuel Quezon, Paul McNutt, who was the U.S. High Commissioner.
So the deal was, because we were not a rich country, we did not have enough money to take in refugees.
They designed a plan to bring in up to 30,000 families over a succession of years.
Because I can't turn a blind eye, Sergio. I'm not going to sit around and wait for another country to do something.
It has to be understood very clearly that the Philippines was because it's a Commonwealth.
One of the kind of minute details about the Manilaner history is that while the U.S. retained the political authority to issue visas, the Philippine Commonwealth retained the right to decide who would be allowed to debark on Philippine soil.
So the setup was, the Philippines would now provide a list of jobs. We need chemists, we need dentists, we need mechanics. Para legal naman, no? Hindi TNT itong mga to. So Germany would now start sending application letters to the Philippines. Dear President Quezon, can you please accept me? I fit your qualifications.
Undeterred by the many obstacles, Quezon still continued working very enthusiastically for what
Ladies and
we
gentlemen.
now know.
I have decided to reveal to you and the Filipino people
As the open door policy.
It was time to leave.
Of all the money that e'er I had, I spent it in good company.
The seriousness of it hit me was when my mom said, "Go to your girlfriend and say goodbye to her."
Alas, it was to none but me, and all I've done.
I remember saying goodbye to her. Every time I had to say goodbye to her was very sad.
Now I can't recall, so fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy.
Many Jewish families at this time were left with only two choices: to suffer and wait or to escape. Lottie's family was lucky enough to be given the chance to take the second choice. But what will it be now for Margot, her family, and the rest of the many Jews left behind?
May court a pretty girl, and perhaps be welcome back again. Thank you.